Hello, my name is Dr. Jeannie Barrow, your GCA host on GCA Studios, brought to you by the GameChangeAgency.com. I'm also the CEO and founder of Fearless Women at Work, an executive coaching and career strategy company. Thank you for joining us today. And I have my guest today is Tracy Ullman. Hi, Tracy.
Hi. Hi. Great to be here. I'm so excited.
Me too. And by the way, Tracy Ullman has the same birthday as the comedian Tracy Ullman, which I found to be fascinating. It's just too much coincidence, don't you think?
I know. Yeah.
So Tracy and I have three things we'll be discussing this morning. Tracy is an empowerment coach, and she's going to talk to us about care for others, don't carry them, observe others, don't absorb them, be heard, not hush. So, and I'm actually very curious, Tracy, about what's going to happen today when we talk about this. And I want to share with my audience why I found this topic that you talk about to be relevant to this channel and the whole, movement behind empowering leaders to create inclusive workplaces. Mm-hmm. So both as a leader, when you are in positions of high pressure, high demand, it's so important to keep your light on. And she's not talking about a switch either, a switch in the wall. Mm-hmm. And also as a leader, we are role models. As I always say, it always starts with us. So we have people that are looking up to us. Those people also have a light. And so as leaders, we need to have that mindfulness and awareness that every single person working for us has their own light. And how do we help them shine their light so that as they shine their light, they bring the best performance to the table. That's why this is a relevant topic. And I'm so happy that you're here, Tracy. Thank you for your time. Yeah. And I'm really, really looking forward to this. So before we get started, let me tell you a little bit about Tracy. Tracy Ullman is a Reiki master teacher. And those of you who don't know about Reiki, Reiki is an energy healing modality. And I studied not so much Reiki, but just energy healing with through the books of Barbara Brennan, who used to be a former NASA scientist, as well as Deborah Eden, who I studied with on live workshops at Rhinebeck, New York at the Omega Institute. So I am totally in sync when it comes to energy, because how many times do you walk into a room and do you sense that people's energy is low or high? People are excited or people are down or stressed. So that's energy. That's really what it's all about. And the more you work on that, the more you hone your ability to detect energy when it shifts and when it changes. As a salesperson, being able to do this effectively is key, right? Because you are able to read the energy in the room and you can pivot your sales pitch according to what you sense from people. So this is just one of the applications of knowing about energy in the business setting. So back to Tracy. Tracy has a unique background. She is the founder of Soulscapes, which is a med spa for over 10 years now. And Tracy also has a degree in nursing. She has a Reiki mastership and expertise in healing touch. She's also a licensed cosmetologist and medical esthetician, and is a graduate from the Institute of Laser Medicine. Tracy is an empowerment coach and a speaker, and we're going to talk about this, Tracy. She just finished doing her first TED Youth, which is an amazing venue just for speakers in general, TED Talks in general. And she's also a talk show host, and she's been interviewed by TV producers of The View, The Dr. Oz Show, CBS 48 Hours, and Energy Times Magazine for her expert advice as an empowering others. Mm-hmm. She's also been a guest on numerous talk show radio shows like The Frankie Boyer Show, All Business Media, and The Jennifer Hannon DC Show. So without further ado, let's dive right in, Tracy. So tell us what you mean by care for others, don't carry them.
Yes. So how that came to be is that most of the time I found in business and even in my workplace, we kind of have the stigma of that we have to please others, especially in business. Mm-hmm. You know, the customer is first, customer is king. But in our personal lives too, we hear things, well, don't be like that and you shouldn't do that. And we get domesticated by our parents. But when we are told not to act a certain way, it's almost like, well, I don't know what to do with those feelings then. And we stuff them. And
That's
what
true.
if care for others, don't carry them, means that we're not to carry other people's beliefs to that we make them our own, that it stops us from really truly shining our light, our true authenticity. You know, I did that as a child. I cared so much of what other people said and thought that it actually depleted and diminished my light.
Interesting.
I would not step forward. And I would have teachers and other people tell me, you know, you'd be really good at this. Why don't you do that? Well, because maybe one time I was told, you know, Tracy, you're singing way too loud and your singing gave me a headache, right?
Oh
Oh my
gosh.
God, I hurt their feelings. Oh my goodness. So then when I was asked to come up stage and to sing in the school play, I'm like, oh, no. Now, maybe some people, you know, they don't have what I have, that disease to please or, you know, thinking about myself. But the problem is that when we care for others, that's one thing. That's great to care about their well. When we care and we carry their beliefs, it's almost like a codependency. You're carrying around their stuff, making it their own, and we do it in the workplace.
Yep.
You might have been reprimanded for one thing, and that one trigger then all of a sudden depletes you from trying something new or going out there. Or here's the best one is we don't really speak our opinion. We keep it quiet.
That's a great example, Tracy. Great
Yes.
example. So that happens a lot in the workplace where, for example, if we're in a meeting and we are giving our opinion and somebody above us, usually a superior, hushes us in a way by saying, okay, we've heard that, and they have a very diplomatic way to kind of shush you. You then say, oh my gosh, I am never speaking again, right? Which is such a mistake because, again, that was that person's perception at the moment that nothing else should have been said about whatever you were saying. But if we carry that along with us and use it as a lesson, I'm just going to keep my mouth hush. Imagine what you're depriving the world from. Your ideas, your opinion as it relates to maybe making something better and improving something. So it's almost what we're saying is let's take things situationally, right? Let's look at the situation and not generalize and then apply it to our lives forever.
And how I give my students an example of care for others, don't carry it. I tell them, just think for a moment, hold a glass of water out in front of you, a small glass of water out in front of you. How long do you actually think you could hold it? Maybe a couple of minutes, maybe some of you a half an hour. But if I asked you to hold that glass of water for a week or a day or a month, that glass of water becomes so heavy, you go on your knees, you can't get up, you can't see straight. That's how I compare of don't carry others, care for them, but don't carry them, because that is how you become riddled with stress. And yes.
And also, I mean, that goes to me, Tracy, that also goes to being very clear about what is your truth, right? And what is somebody else's truth.
Yes. Yeah.
I know that sometimes we hear people say things to us. And one of the things I used to help myself kind of delineate between what's my truth and what's someone else's truth is to say, that's Tracy's opinion.
Yes.
That helps me a lot, because then I realize that it's not my truth. That's just Tracy's opinion.
And then it's okay that you don't agree. And I think too many times when you have the disease to please, you're so apt on to just yesing people to death that I know in corporate America, I became overworked. Yet, can you work this weekend? Yeah, sure, I'll fill in. Can you do this weekend? Yeah, sure, I'll do that. And then before you know it, you start getting a resentment saying, why am I the one always being asked all the time? Well, because I'm the one saying yes.
You're the one who always says yes, yes.
Yes, so that's where I came up with one of the personal powers is care for others, don't carry them.
Yeah. So how else can we apply that in the workplace? Because, you know, something that is coming to me now is that as a leader, we have a team, right?
Mhm.
And if we care so much that we are carrying them literally, like doing work that they should be doing, we're not doing them any justice. We're not
Yeah.
stretching them. We're not helping them grow. We're not having perhaps courageous conversations we need to have with them about their performance.
Mhm.
So that to me also applies to that scenario.
Yeah, you would actually be disempowering them than empowering them. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, how can I stretch you? How can I empower? Well, I'm giving you these examples of what you need to do, and if you're not carrying them out, then actually we're just disempowering each other, and then we're not co-creating the workspace together, because we collaborated to come together to co-create that space to get a job done. Yeah.
True. Yeah. And we're always feeding off each other. And as a leader, we mentor our staff. So that would be part of the mentoring process, to actually have a sidebar and say, listen, we need to work on this particular issues.
Yes.
Great.
Yeah.
So Tracy, I know I always start with why, and I forgot to ask you. So before we go on to the next one, which is observe others, don't absorb them.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you, what is your why? Why do you do what you do every day?
Yeah, well, I'm just going to say, honestly, I just enjoy helping people. I really do. I have a deep compassion of helping people feel better. It's why I went to become a nurse. My why I get out of bed in the morning is because I love the thrill of helping somebody learn something new about themselves, and that they can go out then and they help somebody else. I believe
pay it forward.
Light. Yeah, I just love seeing it. I just love helping people. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So in the context of this conversation, observing others and not absorbing them, what does that mean?
So observe others, don't absorb is one a little snippet. But what that means is we all have goals and priorities in life. Mm-hmm. Get distracted from other people, what they think we should do and say. Mm-hmm. Okay. And, just as you should stay away from somebody who has the flu, you also should stay away from somebody who has a case of stinking thinking. You could be in a completely good mood and they're in a negative mood, and then you become negative. And I know it sounds like common sense, but we all do it from time to time. I mean, just the other day, I was standing in line going to my post office, and I was in a completely good mood, and it's a little old and cold and dreary in there. But, I go in and someone's complaining about the weather. And what did I do? I chimed right in with them. And I absorbed them. I didn't observe. And we have a tendency to allow others, again, and this is all based on the realms of keeping your light on, and I'm not talking about a light switch. And these are tools. Observe others. Don't absorb them. You don't have to be like them. And again, I think it goes back to a little bit of codependency as well.
So let's talk about the office place. I agree. No, and I think what you're describing is typical symptoms or features or attributes of an empath, right? Someone who really feels for others, who really can relate and put themselves in their shoes, right? Mm-hmm. So I completely get that. So in the workplace, how can we see, what are some examples of how people can observe others and not absorb them? But what came to mind for me right away when you said that about
go ahead.
Line was, when you're in the office and there's negative people, there's always negative people wherever we go.
Yeah.
And somebody's complaining about something, about the office or about a boss or about a coworker. And so I know for me, it was so important to stay positive in the workplace, especially. Mm-hmm. That I tried to never engage in those conversations.
Yeah.
So there's two different camps, right? We can either stay quiet, or we can just say, look, to each his own, to kind of just let them know that we're not going to go there. So whatever, whichever way you want to go and you feel more comfortable with, I can see people going either way, right? Either not saying anything and just sitting there and not reacting, or saying something to the effect that, listen, let those people be, whoever they're talking about, which in some cases can alienate you if you actually come out and say something. But when people are saying things that are unfair about other people, especially out of ignorance, I find it very hard to stay quiet.
Oh yeah.
Especially when it's not just when it's other leaders that are saying things that are not true about some other person that So I remember being one of those people who would say something and say, actually, that's not quite the way it went, and I would, because I was probably involved in whatever I was chiming in on. So how else do you see that being used in the workplace when it comes to observing others and not absorbing them?
Well, what I would say, especially in the workplace, is I also teach my clients is to use the acronym OAR, OAR. So what would happen is if they are in a negative situation and there's somebody chiming about a boss or a boss, which it does happen, complaining about an employee, is to use the acronym OAR. And what that stands for is, if you want to not alienate yourself and give some type of feedback, is make an observation. Okay, Susie Q, yes, I see that. And then ask a question. How relevant is this really? Like, what part about this story is really your truth? Like, what's really going on here? And it could be that they show up late every day to work and something else is going on and they're really annoyed or resentful.
Yes.
So it's make an observation, ask the question who's being negative, and then reveal something about yourself. I used to think that way too, and it's just a waste of energy. And make something about yourself. Give an example of yourself of how you improved it. And most people, they might take your suggestion, but I know with my clients, it at least gives them something to think about than to do either what you said they're going to do. They're either going to go quiet in the workplace, they're not going to say anything, or they're going to chime in, but it's really, I guarantee you, it's not really what they're thinking. They're not really thinking that. Right. So if you make an observation, ask a question, and then reveal something about yourself, it puts the conversation in a more directed way of, yes, we hear you're disgruntled. Yes, there is an underlying resentment here, but we all have to get along with each other. And maybe make a joke. Well, okay, you put her down 3 times. How about putting her up? Like, give me 3 put-ups.
That's a great point.
And look what happens. You get a laugh out of it.
No, I really enjoy that. The or strategy.
Make it up. Yes.
Make an observation, ask a question, and reveal something about yourself.
Exactly.
That is a great way to really get to the bottom of the observation, right?
What's going on? What's really going on here? The negative. Where's that negativity coming from? I think it's a really good way. She tried,
Yeah. And like again, I'm all about creating those inclusive work environments. So that's also a great way to connect with someone.
Yes. It's a good icebreaker. So if you're going to somebody's house for this first time, or maybe you have to go into a meeting. I don't know about a meeting, but I know if you're going to somebody's house for the first time, I've done it. You can step in and say, oh my goodness, this reminds me of Tuscany. And you don't know the owner of the house. And you'd say, have you ever been to Italy? And then reveal it about yourself. Oh, I'd love to go see Italy.
Right.
And easy, and it's a nice conversation piece as an icebreaker too. You like that?
Thank you. Yeah, I do. Yeah. I really do. Yeah. So observing others, not absorbing them. This actually, for me too, brings this up, Tracy, which is, I know as leaders, many times we mimic the leadership style of other people, other leaders around us. And sometimes that's a good thing if we happen to be surrounded by great leaders, and sometimes that's not a great thing, right? And I don't know about you, but I have been in work environments and workplaces where the leaders are excellent, right? Where they are so caring and connected, and they show competence in terms of intelligence, but also emotional intelligence. And I've also been in places where the leadership is not so connected. It's the opposite. They're disconnected. They're not showing compassion and caring, and don't really seem to be in touch with what's happening on the quote-unquote floor. And so you have other leaders who mimic that style. So in this case, the observe others, don't absorb them, to me is saying, be clear about what your leadership style is.
Yes.
And do what you feel. I always say, lead in the way you would like to be led. Right? Do you like a leader who's a micromanager? Do you like a leader who believes in you? Or do you like a leader who's always questioning what you're doing and how you're doing it, and showing a lot of doubt and insecurity about your work? So, I mean, for me, this entire strategy of observe others, don't absorb them, speaks to be grounded in your own leadership. Be grounded in what works for you. and be that, embody that, versus absorbing what you see from others, even if
That's
they're
right.
above you. Because sometimes we think, oh, if the leader above me is doing it, that must be the way or the path to success.
Mm-hmm.
And I always argue that, follow your own quote unquote light, right? Because
Yes.
you have to put your you have to put your head down on your pillow every night.
Mm-hmm.
So, all right. So let's talk about be heard, not hush.
Hushed.
Hush. Tell me about that.
Well, that came from lots of times, growing up as a kid. I was the baby. I had an older brother and sister, and I was always told, "Oh, what do you know? Just get out of here. You're just a kid." And I tell you that you hear that enough, you kind of, have a hard time trusting yourself in that. Well, do I really know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
And you start telling that story where, as you become an adult, I felt like I was asking my mentors all the time, what do you think I should do? And I don't know, I'm indecisive and
Right.
couldn't really connect to that true higher power or true authentic Tracy in the voice.
Even your
that I had.
knowing. Yeah, your own knowing.
Exactly. And so being heard and not hushed is all about getting a new story. If you're telling the same old story, how is that true voice going to come out? So
Mm-hmm.
getting a new story so that you can be heard the way you want to be heard.
Right.
And that means to me is that now I have to go to meditation. I have to go to the good orderly direction inside and connect to that emotional and intuitive intelligence and ask myself and wait and pause and get my answer instead of hushing myself or having to ask somebody. So if you're in the workplace, you could go to HR maybe if you had an issue. But, I found in corporate America that HR really didn't have. They told me, build a bridge and get over it. So it's kind of, and then as a leader in communication, I sometimes would give in because I was really going for this idea and I kind of gave in and my idea was never brought to light.
There you have it.
So I had to tell a different story. How do you, as a leader or an individual that's leading, how do you want the story to end? And you've got to stay focused on that end result. And that is changing your story. You got to change your story. Get a new story. If you're complaining, get a new story.
That's right.
Yeah.
So one of the exercises that I do with my clients and we work on, this will be the RISE strategy in my care system: connect, align, rise, envision, and seek. And rising above your limitations is about rewriting your story. So I agree with you 100% that when you have this old story that you've been telling, whether it's about your life, how you were raised, the boss you have, how you haven't had a break, how life has just been so tough. And, so what I tell my clients is, let's reframe that.
Yes.
Let's take all these experiences that you had in your personal life, in your professional life, and let's find how those experiences have brought you to be the person you are today.
Yes.
So it's flipping those limiting beliefs upside down by looking for the gold in those experiences, in those stories, and then rewriting it. So let's rewrite your story, which is what you're talking about, right? Let's come up with a new story.
Yeah. Find a solution. Stop living in the problem. It's so
right.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. So one quick example about that, for example, is I have a friend who had a really, really rough personal life, and things were really, really tough. I mean, the kind of stuff that you don't want to be faced with as a mother, as a wife, and so we rewrote her story, and in that story, she was the heroine, right? Because she came out of all that. Her daughter came out of all that. And it takes grit, right? It takes resilience for someone to be able to overcome such odds. So similarly, in our professional life, I'm sure so many of us have gone through so much and have encountered situations that we just couldn't even imagine. And here we are today, standing and plowing forward. So that is one way to rewrite that story, right?
Yep. Yeah. I'll just add and piggyback on that is when you're co-creating space in a workspace and you're beginning your story. And then I think what happens is people get so hung up on, and I know I do it myself, is that end result of it. They're so focused on that end result of what they believe should happen that any other thing that comes in front of them, they can't see it. And then that's how that story builds and
Right.
to it, that you can't really let go of it. So I teach my clients, letting go of the story is a letting go of the end result. We're not saying that you're not going to get exactly what you want, but you will get everything that you need when you,
Right.
yes.
That's true.
Yep.
I'm glad
Yep.
you brought that up because I know,
Okay.
especially in the workplace, as a project manager, you're running a project. You have
Yeah.
everybody aligned to do a certain thing, and then something happens. A vendor doesn't follow through, or something that was supposed to be tested by X date isn't tested on time because they found bugs that need to be fixed, or something like that. And we can really spin out of control, or we can just say, okay, so how do we pivot, right? And
Yeah.
as a project manager, I think you're more trained to do this frequently, where you think about alternatives and what can, if this happens, what can we do? So you're constantly strategizing around alternatives.
Mm-hmm.
But I can relate to what you're saying, which is sometimes when we think of not so much just the end result, but the how, and we think of the how being so specific that anything that gets in the way of that specificity for us, it's almost like throwing a wrench in our equation. Which, if you think about life,
Yeah.
how many times do we plan something and it goes exactly as you planned it? Raise your hand. Right? I mean, it hardly ever happens.
Yes.
So rather than be surprised by the fact that it didn't happen, maybe we need to be more curious about being surprised in life.
Yeah. Because you'll get lost in this story, and then you wake up and go, oh my goodness, Maya Angelou said it the best in one of her poems. She said, some people or most people go so far in life and then they park. They get off and then they just park. And
Yeah.
people are driving by, hey, do you need a jump? Hey, do you need jumper cables? And I'm like, no, I'm fine. And they stay parked there for years.
Yes.
Look at me and go, oh my goodness, you've done so much since I met you 5 years ago. And I'm thinking, well, I'm in the game. You can't work.
I like that.
And I like what Helen Keller says too. She says, life is short and unpredictable. Eat the dessert first. Eat the dessert first. Don't get focused on that end story. Eat the dessert first.
Yes, we actually
Yes.
have a similar saying in Dominican Republic.
Do you?
Where I grew up until I was 14, and that is in the farm where I grew up, my grandfather, people would come by, and if you were having supper, he would offer them food.
Nice.
So
Yeah.
we knew that we had to eat the meat first. So in case they came, they can have the rice and beans.
That's right. Give me the meat.
Eat the meat first. So that's very similar to that, Tracy.
Yeah, that's fun. That's fun.
I like your analogy about Maya Angelou's parking, right? Because
Yes.
I think that happens to a lot of us professionals in our life and our careers, where we kind of get in a rut, right? Where things are okay, you're working, you go to work every day, and you had maybe some aspirations when you were just out of school, but now you've been in the game for 15 years, 18 years, and you feel like, you know what, this is it for me. I'm done.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
it's almost like this type of energy, like this is it for me, right?
Yes.
Things are good. I have my routine. I have my schedule is set with my work and my family, and we stop.
Yep.
And we stop. And when you really think about how much more can you be contributing, how much more could you of an impact could you be having in your firm, even in your community. We sometimes need to get out of our comfort zone, and it's hard to do when we're juggling everything. I get it. I understand what it's like to juggle work and family and life, especially if you have an illness in the family, a loved one is not well. It puts a lot of stress on us, and I get it. I understand it.
Yeah.
But I always want to challenge my clients. Beside that, in spite of that, how else can you shine your light? And just to use your terminology, Tracy,
Yes.
How else
Yeah.
can you shine your light? How else can you really bring it? And sometimes it doesn't require a lot of effort. Sometimes it's just a little extra that could really
Yeah.
make a big difference.
Yeah. Yeah, it's doing what you love and I don't want to say any cost, but doing what you love will always keep your light on, always.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And you can tell when you meet people
Yeah, their
whose
light's on,
light
right?
is on, because
Yeah.
they are engaging, they are
Yep.
curious about you, about life, about what's coming. And
Mhm.
there is a certain level of just this energy about them, right? That
Mhm.
everybody can sense. And people say, I'll have what she's having, right?
Yeah. Yeah, because they're in a good mood because they love, we can boil it all down, strip it back as much as you want, but it really all comes down to loving yourself. What do people really want? They want to feel good.
That's
You know,
right.
feel
Yeah.
good about what they're doing
Mhm.
and who they're helping and living a life of joy. And if
That's
that's
right.
not if that's not where you're at today, then these tools that we just went over, care for others, don't carry them, observe them, don't absorb them. That will help you in a sense of really keeping you
Yeah.
narrow in a sense of what's really important. It really boils down to you.
Yes,
It
it
really
does.
comes down to you and your happiness.
That's right. And your own
And I think-
self-fulfillment, yes.
Exactly. Yes. And I wasn't doing that. So I know if who's ever listening, it's like I walked that walk. I was in corporate. I know what it's like. And I know how much better it is out here. Because being a leader is I just love it. I love
Yeah.
leading and helping people.
And leading is not just about leading in a corporate setting. I think we are leaders in business and in life, right? We're
Yes.
leaders for our teams,
Yeah.
but we're also leaders for our families, in our communities.
Right.
This has been wonderful, Tracy. You see how quickly 20 minutes go? We're
Yeah.
about 23 minutes or so, but my gosh, it just, it really does go by fast. So how can
Yes.
people reach you, Tracy?
Well, they can reach me on my website at www.soulscapedesign.com. That's Soulscape, not an at the end, soulscapedesign.com. And we're located in Downingtown, Pennsylvania.
And do you have any promotions going on that my audience, if anybody's local, can?
Yeah, well, we were talking about that earlier. We do empowerment coaching here, and there is a special right now in the last 2 months we've had is you have 7 sessions or 6 sessions and you get the 7th one free. Because if we are going to do empowerment, we want to make sure that the client is all in. Empowerment does work when you at least start with 7. I kind of use the 7 chakras. We go
That's
through
right.
each chakra
That's
and,
right.
and help empower them. But yeah, so we have, check out my website. It's out there and it is 7 sessions and you pay
Awesome.
for 6 and you get the last one free.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Tracy. I really appreciate that.
Thank you.
She's Tracy at tracyullman.net as well. And we'll have your information available for folks underneath the video so they can contact you. So you can reach me at fearlesswomenatwork.com. I am always a pleasure to be with you. And I hope that these conversations are really helping you to get to your next level of mindfulness and awareness and really creating a life that's honoring your well-being as a leader. Thank you, Tracy. We'll be in touch soon, okay?
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.